Marines, I just want to talk to you about something. I was about to make another survival prep video on this brand new channel. I'm starting up, separate and apart from all my other channels. I wanted to talk to you, Marines who are on your way or think you're going to separate after your first tour, specifically you that are on your first tour. I was obviously in the Marine Corps. I wouldn't be here talking to you. As a matter of fact, most of your, and if you've been in the Marine Corps 4 years, most of your Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps, Staff Sergeant Ronald Green, well, Sergeant Major Ronald Green, sorry. He's Sergeant Major now, but Staff Sergeant, well, Sergeant Major Green was my section chief in Charlie Battery, 1st Battalion, 11th Marine Regiment out there at Las Pulgas, 91 through 93, something like that. But it was definitely in 1993 because I remember when we went to Somalia, I think we were there a month after those choppers went down in 93. Staff Sergeant Green gave me my first little mini command. I was his A chief. And when we hit Mogadishu, he gave my first command. I was like, what? And Staff Sergeant Green, well, Sergeant Major, sorry. He was like, he was like, Smith, don't let nothing happen to my Marines. So yeah, I just thought that was an interesting story. But I want to talk to you, Marines who that you're getting out of your first tour. I want to first say this, is that I don't know what the Marine Corps you face and the world you face was one level up from the world we face, because when I was in boot camp, this would have been, I was about to graduate, so this would have been in August of 1990. Saddam Hussein had just rolled into Kuwait, and it was pretty much decided that the U.S. or this coalition was going to go in and remove him from Kuwait. And I remember my senior drill instructor, Sergeant Luster, he said something, man, it just really pumped us up. He said, boys, he said, there's 2 million Iraqi soldiers and there's 5,000 Marines. He said, that fight is just about even. Advantage Marines. Y'all know how those drill instructors do you. You have the opportunity to re-enlist. And I'm not going to tell you whether to re-enlist or not, because again, since 2001, especially Marines that were in Afghanistan, and then you that were in Iraq, certainly those of you who are about to retire now, I know we only salute officers, but y'all that fought this war on terror, man, I salute you. I can't understand what you went through, and I was busted, disgusted, and outraged about what President Joe Biden, he left those Marines behind. 13 of us got killed. I was outraged by that. Incompetent. Terrible. That was awful. What I found out when I was about to separate, when I was in my MOS school, I was 0811. I went to artillery school in Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and during that time, this other Marine said something. He said something, and it was like super offensive to me. And I took my Kevlar helmet and just broke his nose. I just beat the mess out of him. Really, if I wasn't a student, I probably went to the brig. But I received an assault charge, fine, NJP, all those hours, you know. I endured, you got my stuff together, and this was at Fort Sill. So 3 years later, I actually got a good conduct medal, and I was promoted to corporal. And this was like in Mogadishu, Somalia, right a month or two after those choppers went down, we were there. I was promoted in a place called the Old Port. Me and a dude named Golden were promoted to NCO there. I said that to point out that my calculus for staying in was different, because I asked that Sergeant Green, well, Sergeant Major Green at that time, right there when I was promoted, I said, because I was going and making all these plans on staying in, and I asked him, because I'd heard a rumor about Marines that got charges or that had like a negative something on their record, even if it was just NJP office hours without fines and all that stuff, that at some point they would not be promotable, even though if it happened 3 years or you received a good conduct medal, those things aren't supposed to be considered. I asked that Sergeant Green, because I was like, yeah, I'm gonna stay in the Marine Corps. You know, I was struggling with what was going on there in Somalia, of course, but I asked that Sergeant Green, all things being equal, if you was, you know, on a promotion board or whatever that was, and if you had to put 2 Marines forward to be promoted to sergeant, all things being equal, and I had his charge, Staff Sergeant, what would you do? He said, Smith, he was like, man, I'd have to go with the other Marine, and here's why. And he said, I'm not the only one. He said, at some point that's going to become a problem. So I kind of got out there because, again, back then, if you get 4 years, if you weren't a sergeant by 8 years, a staff by 12, a gunny by 16, pretty much they were going to cycle you out of there. Another part of my calculus was I just needed a breather. This is where I want to go with you. I just needed, we just got back from Somalia. I did 3 floats in one tour, if you can imagine. I was on ship, volunteering. I did 3 floats in 2 years, almost 2-3 years. I did 3 floats. You really only had to do 2 back then. I just needed a break. And by the time April of '94 came around, I was like, man, I got to get out. I need a break. And here's what's important to you. I needed a break, but I thought breaking means separating from the Marine Corps. I'm 21, 22. So what I'm telling you is, if you are weighing whether to get out because you need a break, take 30 days. Whatever leave you have saved up, take that time. Get away and think about it. Because here's what I discovered 2 weeks, only being out 2 weeks from the Marine Corps. I knew even at 22 or 21, 22, I think it was, that was like the gravest mistake I ever made. Even if I would have only stayed 4 more and topped out, that was the gravest mistake I ever made, was leaving the Marine Corps when I only needed a break from it. So I'm telling you, young Marines, this: if you don't know, if you are tired and you're worn out, somehow take a break, right? I know the Marine Corps is different on mental health and all this stuff these days, or so they say. I can't imagine. I heard like recruits today can like have a timeout card when to get drill instructors out your face from choking you out and beating you down. I mean, that wasn't the true for us old breeds. Here's what I'm going to end with. Take a break and make this decision, because I separated officially off contract totally 24 years ago. I separated 24 years ago or something like that. The biggest regret I have had in my life was that I separated when all I wanted was a break, a vacation, something. And I regretted that since that day. I should have saw it through to the end, whatever that end was for me with that assault charge, right? But if you don't have charges, who knows how far you can go. The second thing is, don't stay in just because the economy is bad right now. Don't do that to our Corps. That's an insult to us. And I realized too, some people talked about going back and all sort of stuff. Once you get out, even if it's just for a few weeks, you can't go back, because that's an insult to our Corps. Because in our minds, it's like, oh, this is easier than that? Is that what you're saying here? Or you're running away from a challenge? So I'm asking you, don't be me, and don't live with regret. If it just takes another 4 years for you to scratch that itch and absolutely know that you don't want to be in the Marine Corps, or it's time for you to leave, and you did what only 1/10,000th of the population in this entire almost 400 million, 340 million person strong country could do. You've done something even the other branches of the military could not do. You became a U.S. Marine. So don't throw that away because you simply need a break. If it just takes 4 more years of you scratching that itch, I'm asking you to do that. Because what you're going to find is when you get out, the biggest thing with this PTSD thing and all the other stuff is that when I've gotten out, and this is, I've never necessarily told anybody this except, the Marines from my unit that we talk when we get together. The thing you're going to find is that you might move from place to place because you'll never feel safe again. I'm not saying that the Marine Corps is a safe place. It's not. From a perspective of, what you were there for, to necessarily have the honor of dying for our Corps. You know the lines, right? But I'm saying the guy next to you, the guy to the right of you, in front of you, and back of you, those are your bodyguards. And I had 150 bodyguards when I was in as a part of a artillery battery. And then not only that, we were on Las Pogas at Camp Pendleton. All the different layers somebody would have to go through to get to me. And you will never have that again. So if you can extend that 4 years, I'm asking you to do that. And I'm not a paid recruiter or anything like that, but I'm telling you, you will never feel safe again. because there's something to feeling safe. Now, I understand that safety costs something, and it's going to cost you some of your mental health. I get that. But I would exchange, I don't know anything I wouldn't exchange to have my bodyguards with me. Because I'm like a preacher and a pastor now. And although it breaks my heart to tell you this, even people preaching God, preaching Jesus Christ like we do, they won't even watch your back like that because they're selfish. They care about what they're doing, what they got going on. The question was asked to me about leadership, right? It was like, would you trust a Marine or would you trust like a preacher? I said, I trust a Marine any day of the week, twice on Sundays. So basically what I said is I would trust a cold-blooded killer before like preachers, because they're about them. They've never had the opportunity to step outside themselves and be a part of something bigger than themselves. They are about themselves. They say they're about God. They're not really. A few of them are. And I would say 1 in 10. Unfortunately, preachers that see this, they're all going to believe that they're the 1 in 10 and they're the 9 in 10. They don't believe, they really, most of them, they don't believe what they say and they think they do. And I know that because they never had to put their life on the line to prove that they believe it. So I'm saying to you today, think about it. Consider staying 4 more years. And it could cost you something, even your life, probably, if you go into a war zone. Especially now with this Ukraine and Russia thing going on. But I would trade taking that chance, even with my life, just to know whether it was the right decision to get out because I needed a break and not a separation. I hope this helps.